In late 2023, millions of people who just wanted to learn where their ancestry came from found themselves part of a very different story.
Yeah, this isn't an origin story, though. It's more a cautionary tale. Their genetic data, their names, their birth years, family connections, all that background information was scraped, it was stolen, and it was sold where? Dark web.
On the dark web. This is True Cybercrimes, where we dissect real world hacks, digital disasters, and breaches that keep CISOs and CTOs up all night.
I'm Nick Santilli.
And I'm Chris Kuselis. Today we unpack the 23andMe breach, how credential stuffing exposed the intimate data of millions, why genetics might be the new social security number, and what happens when your DNA becomes someone else's business model.
23andMe was founded on a simple idea: spit in a tube, mail it off, and unlock the secrets of your genetic code.
That doesn't sound disgusting at all. And, and,
Sounds like a college prank more than anything.
right? I haven't done it, but if I did, I'm sure it would come up 63% Greek and 37% donut.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy. The company has over 14 million users globally and holds one of the largest genetic databases in the world.
And what people don't really understand is it's not just about where your family came from. 23andMe offers health insights, carrier status for genetic conditions, even drug response markers.
Yeah, just a side note, if you haven't watched the movie Gattaca, it's kind of old now, but it basically your career path is basically planned out for you at birth because of your DNA.
Genetic
So
code. Yeah, nice.
so anytime I think about 23andMe and this type of stuff, that kind of comes back to my mind. But yeah, I mean that kind of data, it's very personal. It's not just your name and address personal. It's this molecule makes you personal.
Yeah, and in 2023, hackers got their hands on it. Interesting fact: the information in these databases, people again, we're talking about, hey, it's just where I came from, my heritage, but they really use this information. In 2020, DNA was used from a similar public database to solve a double murder that happened in 2016 in a small Illinois town. Investigators used crime scene DNA, and over the years they kept entering it into public genealogy databases, and one of their relatives had given their data, and the process led them to a suspect who was later arrested in 2020 in Ohio. I mean, it's just crazy. And this is an example of DNA being used for purposes of good, but the U.S. military officials have expressed concern over foreign entities collecting American DNA for targeted biological warfare, which is that's hey, wow, this is like a sci-fi movie. But in 2017, the Air Force even advised service members not to use direct to consumer DNA kits for this very reason. I know this is a little bit off subject, but our topic, but that's why DNA is so critical and so important.
Yeah, yeah. We haven't used 23andMe personally, but we did do it for our dog to see what a rescue was. But anyway, so our dog's personal details are maybe at risk.
Are out there. Uh-oh.
Yeah. But this breach, getting back to that, it wasn't flashy. This wasn't, some amazing 0 day that was discovered. There wasn't ransomware, as we've talked about in some of our other shows. This was just good old fashioned credential stuffing.
Yeah. Hackers reused credentials, emails, and password combos that had been leaked from other breaches, and tried them on 23andMe. So, I mean, if you know something got leaked, and you get that little letter, which we all get a couple of them a year, that you're now going to have free credit protection, go change those passwords.
Yeah, I mean, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago now, we heard about some like 16 billion
Yeah.
uh, item the database that was released onto the dark web that's got you know all kinds of personal details, passwords, usernames, that kind of information. And they pull this out and they go, they look up an email address, joe@gmail.com, and they find it everywhere in this 16 billion record database. And they start, matching it against every password that's associated with joe at
Yep.
gmail.com. And guess what? Many of those end up working.
Yeah. And that's why we have content, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because people still reuse passwords just like it's 2008. So,
Yeah.
so just to get kind of a credential stuffing 101, credential stuffing is when attackers use large sets of stolen login credentials from previous breaches and then try them on other services. Nick, you kind of went through that, but it's highly automated. So it's not, two people in a room doing it. They've got computer systems. They're, brilliant people have put these together for nefarious reasons. And, think of it like trying millions of keys and thousands of doors all at once. And again, MFA, I think we've talked about this before, multi-factor authentication, it's your deadbolt. Without it, it's open season.
We should probably start like an MFA drinking game when we do this or something like that.
I've got my LaCroix water. Here we go.
Right, yeah, maybe just for the listeners. Once inside, though, they didn't just grab users' very personal data. They scraped information from that person's entire genetic network, their family trees, connections to relatives, ethnic breakdowns. I mean, everything that connects you and your DNA to, your current and past family.
Yeah, so by cracking one account, they got dozens, sometimes hundreds of connected profiles, like breaking into one apartment and finding spare keys for half the building. So what was stolen? The hackers posted a sample data set on the dark web forum called Breach Forums.
Yeah, some posts claim that they offered data on specific ethnic groups. People of Chinese descent,
Ashkenazi Jews.
Yeah. So now you're getting very, very specific targeted groups to be able to, use this data against.
Yeah, it wasn't, you're right. It wasn't just data theft. It had a flavor of really targeted profiling.
So 23andMe, they later confirmed that the data from almost 7 million users was accessed, including the ancestry information, display names and relationship data, as we mentioned.
And because I know in some of these you can say whether or not you want to have your genetic markers out there, what you're predisposed to have, and in some of these stolen data, there were genetic health risk information that the attackers got as well as everything else.
Yeah. So, to me, that's where this gets real. It's not just who you are; it's what might be in your future, and attackers kind of use that, in so many ways, right? Is suddenly you get a phone call, and somebody says, "Hey, we're calling about this, some disease or something that you're predetermined to have through your genetics," and that becomes real, right? You listen up. You are probably aware of that, and you probably automatically assign more trust where you shouldn't. Anyway,
I'm sure they're gonna think about ways to use this data that we haven't even imagined.
Right.
I mean, it just all of us having will be like, oh my Lord, what are they doing now? But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I think part of the fun of being in cybersecurity is, in order to defend and help people defend against this stuff, we have to think like the attackers. So part of the fun of my job, I feel like, is I get to sit there and go, how would I use this to socially engineer or compromise somebody, right? And so you get to kind of put on your thinking cap a little bit. But so who are the guys that did this, that perpetrated these?
Let's hear all about them. They had to have nailed them, right?
Right. Well, as of now, no specific threat actor group has been officially named. This is, we're about 2 years later. There are several clues, however, that suggest this is the work of financially motivated cybercriminals. Big surprise.
Yeah.
Who
Wow.
figured that one out? Likely operating out of Eastern Europe. I've heard that one before. So some of the clues that we have that led to this, I guess, to me, it's a little bit of a no duh, but data was posted for sale on a hacking forum called Breached, which is a site previously linked to cyber criminals involved in high-profile data leaks. The user who posted me data claimed to be the same individual behind previous leaks involving an Asian grocery delivery service. And the threat actor rather, went by the alias Gollum or Gollum Data and said they were offering the data of individuals with Jewish ancestry, especially Ashkenazi Jews and those connected to families of royalty and the wealthy.
Ooh, royalty and the wealthy. That takes me out of being exposed. But how did they cover their tracks? So no malware was dropped, no systems were hacked in the traditional sense. They did get in illegally, but this makes it really difficult to trace. The attackers used login credentials, which meant 23andMe's system saw it as a legitimate login. Why would this alert anybody? And it didn't. And their access methods exploited user behavior, password reuse, and platform features. They weren't system flaws. They didn't find a flaw and got in. They got in, the the way everybody else at 23andMe got in there.
Yeah.
They operated autonomously through hacker forums using aliases and crypto wallets. And to that point, what are the legal and ethical fallout? Well, the lawsuits came fast, as you can imagine. Class action, privacy complaints, the works.
Yeah, critics, of course, slammed 23andMe for not requiring MFA. I'm not even sure at the time if they offered it, but it certainly wasn't required. Some services still don't offer MFA as an option today. I think that's crazy if they don't, but
Yeah.
they certainly weren't requiring it at the time, especially for something as sensitive as genetic data. That's kind of wild to me.
Yeah. But in response, 23andMe updated their security settings and started mandating two-step verification, multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, but at this point, the breach had already, done immeasurable damage.
Yeah, and genetic data it's basically non-revocable. You can't say, oh, they got it, I'm going to change my DNA. Like
Right.
changing a password. They got it. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Once it's out there, it's out there. It's think about trying to remove your information from the internet, right?
Yeah.
That's hard enough to do.
Yeah.
This is something you absolutely can't change. But yeah, imagine someone knowing about your personal risk for Alzheimer's before you do, or risk of that sort of health condition for your cousin or your child, and how they can manipulate that and you and those people that you love with
Yeah.
that knowledge, especially if you don't know about it yet. That
Yeah.
it's like a bomb.
So cyber lessons in a genomic age. So what went wrong? Weak password hygiene, no enforced MFA, and underestimating how interconnected users are through their data.
Yeah, and the biggest lesson, really, that genetic data is gold anymore.
Yeah.
Why DNA is a prime target? Well, it's immutable. Like you said, Chris, you can't change it. It's valuable. There's research uses. There's insurance implications, blackmail, biosurveillance, and you compromise one, you expose many. So there's a really significant relational um, uh, challenge to that type of compromise.
So with any of these ones that we talk about, the 23andMe breach was a wake up call. They all should be. Cybersecurity can't stop at financial data or emails. It needs to extend in the most personal corners of our digital lives. That being, your this data, the data that you get from spitting in a glass tube and mailing it in.
Yeah. If your company is collecting sensitive data, whether that's genetic or something else, you're a target. You should plan accordingly. I had a conversation with a friend one point who runs a business. I won't say anything more than that. And they were kind of, yeah, I don't think we have any data that's really, they didn't collect genetic data. They didn't. They're
Sure.
like, yeah, it's not important data. I said, is it important to you?
Yeah.
Do you collect it for a reason? Well, yeah. Okay. Then if it's important to you, that's leverage, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be genetic data to be a target to be stolen. If you're
Mhm.
collecting it, it can be monetized, and it can be monetized by being sold to people, and it can be monetized by,
Holding it ransom.
ransoming it to you
Sure.
as the person who collects it. So, what are some takeaways from this 23andMe incident? Well, don't reuse passwords ever. The heydays of the early 2000, where we all had
Password
password one two
one.
three. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now it's
There's a
password one
funny
too.
there's a funny stand-up routine I saw on Instagram, I think not too long ago, where it goes through like the iteration of updating your password every time and adding a number and capitalizing the P and adding an
Yeah.
exclamation mark at the end. And it's like, yep, I think everybody did that for several years, but you got to go back and change those. Don't reuse them. Absolutely mandate MFA. It should be offered with every service. In a lot of sensitive areas, frankly, it should just be required. Um, Assume that attackers will exploit, your network and your relationships. Those all the times that you get a new Facebook friend request from your Aunt Judy, who you're already friends with, right?
Yeah.
That's an attempt to exploit your network and see who all your friends are, so that they can use that against you.
Yeah.
Um, Audit your data collection. Just because you can store it doesn't mean you should. If you're collecting it, do you need to maintain it, or can it be thrown away at some point?
And your DNA may be unique, but does your password really have to be weak? Come on, look at that. I'm gonna turn into a rap song.
Wow, wow. That's it for this episode of True Cybercrimes.
Because in every digital world,
Every bite leaves a fingerprint.
thanks, Nick. We'll see you next
Thanks,
time.
Chris. See you, bud.